Hello again, everyone. So I've introduced Daniel this morning in the chat, and I'm really happy to hand over to him. Our final session for today is it, it's about not just putting it all together, but Daniel is going to give us information about what can we use and what can we use in terms of low-cost devices to make postural support and postural management possible. As I said yesterday, we need to move away from, if as much as possible, move away from silos where we've got the clinician and then the seating practitioner and then the orthotist. So that's why how we structured this course was to try and bring that all together. So that's the part that Daniel is going to give us, his ideas and his experience in making devices and coming up with low cost solutions. Daniel, thank you so much, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Gillian. It's a great privilege. I was so excited when Gillian asked me if I would be part of this 2 day course because I believe just seeing all the attendees from so many different nations, it just shows me again we are all sitting in the same boat. We sitting with the same challenges, and I have worked the past 28 years in Iraq, Sierra Leone, and now South Africa, and just realize again the similarities of people faced with disabilities in low income setting. And so therefore it's a privilege that I can be part of this. Let me share the screen. Excellent. Okay, let's go. Yes, first I would like to just take some time to share a bit about Timion, not so much to brag about our organization. I mean, I'm proud of our organization, but it's more the way we have grown, the way we have moved forward that I think can be quite significant to share. Then I would like to give you some examples of low-cost assistive devices that we make, or other things that I saw that are really um, very useful designs. We want to shortly speak about APT pros and cons. However, I have to highlight I'm not an expert in APT. I know about it, but I've not used it much myself. Um, but I do have some observations which I would like to share. Then I would like to share with you a design I actually started 3 weeks ago. In light of this seminar, I thought, well, let's take the challenge and develop something that's simple but functional. And then I would like to share about future possibilities, how also upcoming technology can maybe help us in the future, and just give you a few insights there. And then I would like to share some ideas I have about the possible partnership with Timion, because my vision is really yeah, to that low cost equipment is available throughout the world. So Timion, we started it in 2006, and my wife is a physiotherapist, Annika. She's from South Africa. I'm from Switzerland. I'm an orthotist. Um, we met when we were serving in Sierra Leone, West Africa. And when we came to South Africa in 2006 and started Timion, um, we were we went to the Department of Health and asked um, the rehab facilitator there, what is the biggest need? And she said, equipment for children with severe disabilities. And that was also the field that we, from our professional background, felt confident in and had a heart to work in. So that was a perfect match. And we named our organization Timion. Timion is a Greek word which means precious or held in honor. And just um, as an answer to the reality that so many children with severe disabilities face and their families, that of a reality of rejection, of accusation, of blaming. It is really very hard to see how society uh, sees children with disability. And we felt we need to give a name that speaks what is deep in our heart is that these children are precious and wonderfully made. They are different, yes, but they are wonderfully made. So ever since I was 16 and my mom brought home children with disability, she worked with children with CP. I've just got a heart for these children. And yeah, maybe God has given me a glimpse to see beyond their disability and see who they really are. So when we started very simple, and how our approach was we would go to the different um, hospitals in the region in Nelson Mandela Bay, um, and uh, organize CP clinics together with the local therapists. And then I would go back to Jeffreys Bay and would produce very simple, low cost equipment. And I think that's why what I'm really excited about having been invited here is we really started from scratch. We started without fancy tools, without lots of money, but very few simple DIY tools, a small car garage where we would produce the equipment. And therefore, I think I can also encourage you who maybe do not have yet a fancy workshop or established services around you, but it actually needs very little to start something. So um, that's just our first workshop. You see, very narrow, very simple. I worked with volunteers in the beginning, just people from the church and from the surrounding and uh, friend organizations that helped me in their free time to earn some extra income. And that is also a proof that, without much, you can do a lot. These are a few samples of our first pieces of equipment. The standing frame, we actually have improved it, but the design has actually in principle stayed the same over all these years. The standing frame has really been the bread and butter, probably our most used equipment. I mean, almost every child with cerebral palsy, we have issued a standing frame just because of the importance. I mean, I don't need to preach to you again, but you heard from Kavi yesterday how important the standing is. You see there is a few tools lying around, and you see these are all very simple tools. These are DIY tools, some battery drills, and there is a small table saw, but not even that is necessary to start something. And because of lack of space, we actually had our workshop on the outside. Again, absolutely possible. And I didn't even have this picture ready because I forgot a bit about this chair. But when I saw in Elsha's presentation, she actually showed one of these pieces of equipment. The reason why I bring it up here is so often, um, yes, there are wheelchairs. So often wheelchairs are available, but obviously they are not fit to, yeah, to work with children with severe disabilities. And by doing inserts, that was our first approach of helping these children. Obviously, there is some seating principles which I did not know yet. Even today, I learned a lot from the lesson from uh, Alsha. and also want to incorporate that more into our equipment. But yeah, so by doing these inserts, we can actually use ordinary wheelchairs and make them yeah helpful for the children with special needs. And this is now the present. So we have grown over the years. We started in 2006, and for many years we worked very simple through in a garage, and later on in an industrial area, also very narrow, very simple workshop. But we had the privilege to procure a piece of land. Um, and we have a proper big workshop now, and we also have some bungalows, which we are using for hosting children with disabilities and their caregivers. Because part of Timion's work, we are actually organizing camps to take the children out of their daily routine and spoil their moms, encourage them, teach them, give them trainings, different training courses that we have to help the moms to understand the disability of the children. And yeah, I just want to also share with this, it is so important to work holistically because so often we focus purely on the child and the child's disability and his or her need. But if we ignore the needs of the caregiver, if we ignore the reality and the depression she goes through, the emotional hardship, the rejection she faces in the society, if we ignore that, how can we expect her to be able to look well after her child, to support her child with all the support that the child needs? So it's a holistic approach. We always need to include the caregiver in the decision making, in the approach, and rather spend more time with the mom um, and encourage her in their long and hard journey that she goes and the 24/7 care that she needs to give to the children. So anyways, it's a great privilege for us to work with the moms very closely. We are like family. So often the moms leave and say, we have gained a new family. And they more and more, the longer I work, the the more I realize, yes, the balance need to be right. The equipment is important, the therapy is important, but to take the fears and the worries and the um, yeah the condition of the mom or the other caregivers serious is an absolute must in order to make progress with the children as well. Yes, so this is a typical setting of our work. So we are working mostly in the townships and the also rural areas of South Africa. And yeah, so the need for equipment is it needs to be strong, it needs to be sturdy, it needs to be waterproof because often the shacks or the places where people live are not waterproof and get wet. Sometimes the equipment is even stored outside. And that is something we need to keep in mind when we build equipment, when we work with the children. There's also always a lot of siblings around or other friends. And we worked a lot with wing nuts. We still do. But the wing nuts are the most attractive toy for the children to play around. And so often we had it that the wing nuts were taken off by the siblings and then the equipment wouldn't work anymore. So wing nuts are great for adjustability because it's easy to loosen. However, sometimes I do actually prefer a bit the more complicated way by using normal nuts. Um, that the children cannot open with their own hands, but need a tool for. So there is certain things that we need to keep in mind that maybe, yeah, it's not obvious, but the reality has shown us. I was making this quite fancy, highly adjustable chair, and we 3D printed this nice knots so that it makes it easier for the therapist to adjust. And then I showed it to Colleen, our in-house therapist, and told her, "Wow, what do you think?" And he said, "Oh, it's great, but those knobs will be off within 2 hours, and then the equipment will not work anymore." So, yeah, we always have to consider the surroundings. We always have to consider the realities that families face. Another reality is also the narrowness or the space restriction that many families face. So ideally, we would want to give a child all sorts of equipment, standing frame, side layer, or a lying, yeah, lying device, maybe even a reverse rollator if the child has the potential to walk, and so on. A therapy bench so that the mom can do some therapy, simple therapy with the child. But the reality is as well, the family don't necessarily have the space, and we actually have sadly a few times experienced that the mom said she was almost overwhelmed and couldn't cope with it and said, "It's so nice of you, but I don't have the space." So we also need to accept the reality that families live and make compromises. Maybe we have to now prioritize, how do we want to help the child? What is the most important that we can do for the child, even though we would like to do more um, than we can. Yeah, just back to the what Timion does. So, like I shared, we do camps, we do a lot of crafts and activities with the moms. But the most important thing as well, what I experienced is to bring the moms together, because so often the moms are um, very isolated. Often in South Africa, at least, it's the reality. When a child has severe disability, the mom is finding it very hard to move around. The taxis don't like to transport them because they take too much time. um, it's difficult to go in public transport with a child with disability. So therefore, often the moms are very alone. And for us, by bringing them together in the camp and let them just share with each other, encourage each other, that's actually the most powerful thing we can do. And that brings me as well to the APT. Um, that's a bit of a side note that I wanted to share later, but I just remember it now. Um, yes, I think APT takes a lot of time. It's not the most effective way to produce equipment. But if it allows the mom to do something for their child, if it allows the mom maybe to work in a group of people building APT equipment together, how empowering must this be for the mom? So that's also just a thing that we as therapists or as professional service providers maybe don't think about. But the importance of making the caregiver feel she can make a difference for her child, it means a lot. And we should always consider that in the back of our mind. Yes, just another picture of the camp activities. And there's also another chair. Tinian doesn't produce this chair anymore, but as you can maybe see through the different pictures, we have over the time improved our equipment. uh, it became very fancy. However, more and more in light of this seminar, but also just in light of reality and the reality of shacks and the conditions people live and the need for sturdy equipment, I actually get away from some of the fancy features that we have and try to go back to simplicity because and that is also a good news for you because I want to say again, equipment does not have to be fancy, but it has to serve the purpose. And the child should not fit the equipment, but the equipment needs to fit the child. So, yeah, with the operation of Timian, we have helped probably more than 1,600 children with cerebral palsy and issued more than 3,500 pieces of equipment. It's probably much more. I'm always behind with the numbers, but it is just a great privilege to work in this field. And we also do our own home visits, like I mentioned. We see currently about 350 children in our area. But the wonderful thing is we also have a partnership with therapists all over South Africa, especially the Eastern Cape, that therapists actually have access to order donated equipment from us so that they are able to help the children. Um, so I'm very privileged to do that. And we obviously are not don't work on profit. We are a non-profit organization dependent on donations, but we are very privileged to be able to do this work and try not to look at money all the time. Obviously, we have to as well, but um, yeah, money should never be an issue if a child can get the equipment that they need. And then the camps, I spoke about that as well. I just want to go through the different pieces of equipment with you a bit. This is the standing frame. Um, yeah, I'm not sharing too much about it. I think Kabi has done already an amazing job yesterday, but just it is so important. And yeah, it can really make a difference and prevent contractures, prevent deformities, and so on. I mean, you heard about all the benefits of standing. We have also further developed the standing frames because of the different needs. This one is a sit to stand standing frame, and I just want to see if I can play that video for you. Yeah, that's actually many years ago, but just for you to understand the principle of this equipment, um, basically with the leverage, you can bring the child into standing position without needing so much strength. Because the reality is, children are getting heavier. I think that's a big challenge for many caregivers, and they get heavier, more contracted, and it becomes more and more difficult to get the children into standing. I have to say, this sit to stand frame is a wonderful equipment, but it only works for children that do have good upper control, because yeah, they need to be able to sit in order to be benefiting from this device. Sorry, I actually want to move on. Yeah, this is the tilt table. This is I mean, not. I'm sure it's not new to you. You have seen it in hospitals, probably a bit different. But what I really like about that product is that it has a lot of adjustabilities. It has a table as well. It has side supports and so on. And yeah, what I want to say with this is, um, yeah, what I feel is a piece of equipment only makes sense if that equipment is really adjustable because it's not the child you're working with is not fitting the box. It's always a bit different in needs. So what I'm looking when I develop a piece of equipment is obviously always high adjustability because none child is the same and each one has different needs and therefore adjustability is very high on priority. So the tilt table we have here is works with the gear system. You see, it's a wooden gears, and it actually really works very well. And we even have this person at the bottom, Devlin. He actually is a rugby player who had an accident sadly, and is now quadriplegic. But um, he with this device, he's at least now able every day to get into a standing position. This is another type of standing frame we have developed. We actually are on the government tender for this one as well. So we have the privilege as Timion not just to rely on donations, but we also have two pieces of equipment or three actually, that we are on the government tender in South Africa, which means any hospital in South Africa can order this from us. And this is the adult standing frame. We haven't really issued that a lot. I want to explore that more. But the nice thing is you can drive into the equipment with the wheelchair, do a transfer, and then go into the standing position without too much effort. This one I wasn't sure should I remove it because we obviously have learned a lot um, about the horizontal positioning through Sarah, and the simple stuff works. And the side layer, does it still have a place? I am not sure. I'm not an expert, but we do see that the side layer, if it's in a controlled environment, for example, at our daycare center, where we use it daily, I feel it still has its place. But yeah, I'm not going further because I just don't have enough knowledge about it. But what I'm obviously very excited is that Tibion has now access to Nest. We are actually the supplier for the Nest product in South Africa, and it is really an amazing product. I mean, you saw in yesterday's teaching, I think this is a game changer. And um, yeah, I don't have too much knowledge about it, but you have heard enough about it. But I'm just very, very happy that this 24-hour positioning is taken more and more serious and the awareness is growing. And that is good news for the children. Yeah, the therapy bench. So we have height adjustable therapy benches that we make and toilet benches. Um, so the toilet bench obviously is wonderful because it allows the children to, yeah, do the toileting themselves if they have the ability. Often in the South African context, in townships, the toilet is outside, so it is not accessible for the children. And by the toilet bench, they are now able to go to the toilet inside the house and learn independently to get up and go onto it. The toilet bench is also has a lid, which is basically the like a therapy bench, which means the mom can use it as well to do um, therapy or stimulations with their child. yeah, that's the positioning chair that we have developed, and Elsha spoke about it as well. We are very excited about it just because of the adjustability it offers. But it's also a work in progress, and I think now also, yeah, after the teaching from Elsha, I'm very inspired and also want to uh, yeah, want to make sure that all our equipment is also really according to the principles of seating. Um, the corner chair, um, the corner chair is actually not a typical corner chair, and I think that's why it is also not very well regarded. Yeah, I had a discussion with Gillian herself, and she was very surprised we still do corner chairs. However, you see the legs are actually 90 degrees. I mean the knees, um, so they are not in a yeah not flat on the floor. And we are just amazed how many children are able to sit. Obviously, it needs to be children that do not need so much support. But we really have a great experience with this corner chair. That's also something I would like uh, to look at more with Elsha if she has the time to look at it, to look at when is it appropriate, when not. But we had quite good experience with it, and it's very highly adjustable. You see it can go from very small to to a very high setting for the chair as well, and also the backrest can be as well changed according to the need of support. And you see here, we use it a lot in the camps as well. It really helps for the children to be more inclusive in activities. The height adjustable table, um, yeah, I think this is really a nice product, but it's not needed to be so complicated. Um, so again, I want to just say that, mention that in everything. You see now a lot of pictures and it's beautiful looking equipment and I'm really proud of. But, you know, this is not the only thing that helps a child. And it doesn't have to be that fancy and to look so nice. All our equipment has improved over the years and we have better machines, we have better skills. Carpenters obviously are growing. We have an amazing team of carpenters and their skill set increases. But like I shared the first few pictures, and that's why it was so important for me to share that is, you can also do it simple and it is doable. And it is more that your equipment is in line with the principles of seating or whatever need, not so much about the beauty. It's nice to have it beautiful and I'm proud of it, but the functionality, that's what counts the most. Maybe just back to the table. Just the one thing which is very helpful is you see it has a rim around it. It is just so great because stuff is always falling down. And also in the corners, it's the small details, but we leave the corners open because otherwise it will just collect dust and dirt. So now it's much easier to wipe it off. The walker horse is a piece of equipment that we do not use so much, but we did see certain children with the potential to maybe one day walk. They actually benefit in that time of transition. It has a small pelvic support here, and you can see that uh, yeah, it gives a certain stability to the child, and the child can do the first steps moving forward. But it's important not to leave them in for too long. This is also most likely too low, the setting, um, because it can also, um, yeah, it can maybe cause the child to move unnaturally. The reverse rollator would then be the next step for a child to learn to walk if she or he has the potential for it. Um, as you can maybe see here, we have these gutters. Most children do not have the strength to use their forearms and to use their hands to support their weight, but they are much more comfortable and better able to support themselves with the forearm resting on the gutters. This uh, hand, the handle is can also rotate, so you can then choose the best position for the child that she or he is able to, yeah, to have the hands in, externally rotated or whatever, neutral. That helps. I do want to improve this because many children cannot hold on to this very easily. So I would like to have a little bit more options here. You see, it's quite heavy. Again, very highly adjustable. It can also adjust in width, which is not usually possible with normal reverse rollators like the metal ones. Ours can change in width as well, which is great because it just gives the opportunity again to just make it right, that it fits their width need. That is the whole thing about working with children with disability. They have so few I mean, their abilities and stability is obviously very limited. So that's why the equipment needs to be adjusted perfectly or almost perfectly in order to bring out the potential that the child has. And maybe one other thing to point out is the brakes. This is a very simple system of a wooden brake, and that brake actually acts it only allows the reverse rollator to move forward, not backwards. The mechanism of that brake acts like it would dig into the wheel when the child moves backwards. And because the support is on the back, basically the back end is supported by a wooden guard. The child is now only able to move forward because naturally the child would always go backwards. This is our newest product, and that's really showing a bit, yeah, how as Timion we try to be innovative and really try to, yeah, again, bring out the best potential of the children. I had the privilege of having a engineer from Switzerland that did an internship with us. So together with him, we developed this Leonardo gate trainer. We call it like that because it just reminds me of Leonardo da Vinci. Um, and this product has really a great potential. We have now tested it on a few children from different daycare centers, and we were surprised how many children we were able to get into walking with this. So basically, there's a whole harness that fits into this piece, and then the child is supported in the gravity. There's also different strings that you can attach to help them having that the gait pattern, to develop the gait pattern of one leg forward, one leg backwards. And I'm very excited about this and think this could be a leap forward and maybe but then give the potential for many children to maybe one day be walkers. The salt splint is very simple. I mean, we produce it a lot, but basically it's just a piece of cloth in a triangular shape or in a conical shape, and then a piece of foam um, that's basically then covered, and then the Velcro strips. So, and I'm always amazed how much difference these soft splints can make. The nice thing is because they are soft, they allow the child to be, I mean, they allow to bend when the child needs to bend. For example, if the child has spasticity, it would allow it to go into flexion, but because of the elasticity of the foam, it pushes the child then back into extension. So once the spasticity decreases, the child actually would go back into extension. And we use this quite a lot. And we also use it, for example, together with the gait walker. If we just want a little bit of support for the child to be a bit more upright, it also helps in that way. And it's very simple to produce. I'm obviously gladly sharing the patterns with you if you have interest. We also work a lot with vision boxes and tactile boxes. I mean, it's not, we are just collecting the materials that we get from different stores, like these Chinese stores or just toy toy stores, different. For the vision box, obviously you want the contrast, you want lights, you want some pictures with strong contrasts, for the child to learn who are um, for children to develop their vision. And just to mention as well, the flashlight, we do have it. What we nowadays do is we actually put, we have like, we use this color foil, like red foil in it. So then it first decreases the light because it's very dangerous if you just put a flashlight in a child. You need to be careful not to harm his or her eyes. But with this foil, you then decrease the strength of the light, and yeah, then it is usable for the children to stimulate their vision. And then the tactile boxes, yeah, again, we collect different materials with, yeah, that have give different tactile inputs. They Yeah, we use that a lot in our daycare center as well, or the mom as a daily activity, while the child maybe is in the standing frame. And I just wanted to share one or two pictures from other um, places, just to say, look, we are not, it's not that we have it all right and our design, only our designs works and not no one else. I'm very impressed, for example, with this design, which I've found out through Jillian about it. I've never seen it in reality, but it looks very promising to me. And I'm very excited that, yeah, all over the world, there are different developments and yeah, ideas that people put together and with the only purpose to help the children. This is another way of making a very simple standing frame. As you can see, it's just made with plastic piping, so it's also a very cheap way to to produce equipment. I do not have the experience, that's why I'm not going into it. We are very much wood based, but there is not just wood, and there are other materials that are very usable. Yeah, and I think you've seen now a little bit of the yeah of the equipment that we produce nowadays. But again, I want to go back to how we started. This was taken from one of the Malamulele onwards outreaches that I've been participating, organized by Chilean in the Transkei. Um, and yeah, the reason why we actually started making these pieces of equipment was there was a huge need. There were about 30 children that needed uh, chairs. And the original idea was to make them out of APT, appropriate paper-based technology. And one of the OTs that was co-organizer, she made one prototype and then she realized it took her so long to make this. It's impossible to produce 30 pieces of equipment. And then I got involved and said, well, I can't do it with APT, but maybe we can do it with wood. It could be done much quicker. And that's how we started with having these alternative products to the APT technology, but quite based on the original design of many APT chairs as well. Um, so I'm quite excited that we could, yeah, be part of this project and helped many children. And yeah, coming from the wood, I mean, working with wood, um, it obviously uh, it was a more efficient way to work with. Later, we have then further developed these chairs. This was another prototype that is a bit more adjustable, although we have not continued with these designs because it was a bit too complicated for the therapist to use. That's also something for me as a manufacturer to always consider. Yes, we want the adjustability, but I always have to have the reality in mind. And if I overcomplicate a piece of equipment just for the sake of um, adjustability, I might confuse people, especially if they don't work daily with that piece of equipment. So simplicity counts a lot. Um, and sometimes one has to redesign, and we have redesigned many of our pieces of equipment. And the feedback of the therapists is very valuable. So that's why I think in Timian we are in such a strong position because we have the manufacturing, but then we also have our in-house therapists who go out, test the equipment, come back with feedback, and therefore we can develop and improve the equipment very quickly. So this is the APT. It's beautiful. I mean, I'm amazed by the art. It's wonderful. And as I said, I do not have the experience in APT. My wife has done an APT course 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago in England. And we have used it here and there for one or two things, but not really. Therefore, I leave that to the experts to comment more. But I do have some observations. I think it's on the next page. So, what I love about APD, appropriate paper technology, is it's cheap or for free even. It's the caregiver empowerment. That is really something which counts so much. So when I heard that, yeah, in many places the caregiver is actually part of building the equipment. I was so happy to hear that, and therefore yeah, I'm a big supporter of that because what I've seen working with Timion is the moms. I think part of their challenge is that they want to help their child, but they can't help her child. And now, if she can do something for the child, that is such an amazing statement. So I'm a big believer in that approach. And yeah, also to bring two parents together that are in the same situation. The disadvantages, I have to mention them as well. It's always a time consuming. So it, yeah, it is not quickly done. And what I do see as a disadvantage is that usually it's not adjustable. I just realized working with the children, so often you want to see, can we not adjust? Can we not change this or that? And that is obviously much easier done working with a material like wood, where you can have different holes and they try out different settings until you have it right. So that is just a bit more difficult with the APT technology. And then what I did see as well, we actually had one APT chair in our workshop, which we didn't varnish, and it was it is very sensitive to humidity, but also to pest. So actually, there was some probably rats or mice that were eating for part of the chair. But we did realize if one does varnish it, that problem can be solved. So yeah, I thought, there is only that much talking about the equipment, but I want to actually take you now for a case study. So, about 3 weeks ago, I challenged myself and said, look, we are having this seminar very soon. Um, and many people, they do not have workshops, they do not have manufacturers of disability equipment. But how can we help them? And then I challenged myself and said, well, let's go back to our equipment, see what adjustabilities we have on our rather fancy positioning chair, and see if we cannot, in a simpler way, implement that in a piece of equipment that can be produced without all the skills and machinery. So here it is, of something adjustable as the positioning chair from Timion, but needs to fulfill following requirements. Needs to be cheap, needs to be easy to build, it needs to be quick to build, and it must have almost all the adjustability that the positioning chair has. And the material needs to be widely available. So I started to design or further design, I mean, improve our original designs of our plywood chairs, those very simple ones you saw, and see how can we make them more adjustable. And I also went to the challenge and said, look, it needs to be cheap, otherwise it's not going to really help. So we had a list of attendees. So I took the list of the attendees that are most represented in this course. It might have changed now, but that was at that stage, it was like that. And try to find out, yes, what would it cost to make a wooden chair, which I will show you just now, um, that is adjustable, functional, but simple to build. And I was positively surprised. You see here you have the 9 millimeter pine plywood, the hardware that you need, the gutter bolts, pine wood, high density foam, chip foam, and 6 wing nuts. And it came to a grand total of these numbers. I think I'm not reading them all out, but my observation is it's actually rather good priced. I mean, you might disagree, but I was positively surprised. Even in South Africa context, I didn't actually write South Africa. I was quite amazed that I found a plywood that is strong, durable, even good looking, and which was only 350 rand for a whole sheet of 2,400 by 1,200 millimeter, which is the normal sheet size. So anyway, it just gave me hope. Yes, APT obviously is the cheapest, but there would be an alternative to do something a little bit more adjustable and which is easy to build. But I will come to that now in the next slide. So the challenge for me was how do we implement um, how do we implement a good design with adjustability? So it needs to have some grooves, um, but not having fancy equipment, not no CNC machine or other um, woodworking machinery, not even a table saw. And then I thought, well, one approach would be that we use a router. So what a router is, it's basically, it looks almost like a drill, but instead of a drill, um, it has a router bit that goes on it. And that router bit can cut not just like a drill downwards, so just a hole, but it can actually cut sideways as well. But it's very difficult to handle it because you can move it in any direction, so it's not easily possible. But there is an attachment on the router, on any hand router you can buy. There is an attachment which is like a ring. So what that ring does, it guides the router bit into a certain position. So now by me providing a template, you see here is the template. This is now a two-piece template because I was already thinking, how can I take it to Tanzania? That's a place I want to visit very soon. I need to be able to fit it in my suitcase. So we split it up into two pieces. So basically, you have that template, and then you can just run your router and very simply do the thing. I want to show you now. So he basically just follows that groove. He has to leave it because otherwise the template would break apart. But I have cheated a bit. So here it's a bit on higher speed than the reality. It's about double the speed. But just for you to see that it's really not a rocket science. You just follow, you just follow the groove. And by doing that, just want to shortly finish it off. You see, he's making the grooves now. So those grooves are very important for the adjustability of the chair. Okay, that's it. Sorry, I go further. So then once all the side pieces have been cut via a hand router, which I just showed you how, and guides, or a CNC machine, which we have the privilege of using. So in all honesty, I have to say this, most of the parts I did produce with the CNC machine, which you will learn later what that means. But then you have all the pieces that you need. Then they will be sanded and the corners will be rounded. So again, no rocket science. And to prove the point, I have actually asked Leah, she's a volunteer with us, and she has no carpentry background because I just wanted to see, does that really work in reality? So I asked her, told her, would you be able to help in a project? I want you to build a positioning chair. And I only told her the same morning, so she was very spontaneous and started sanding. I just gave her instructions of the next step that she had to do, but everything she did herself. So I'm just running a short video that you can see kind of what work is involved. So now she's rounding the edges and just sanding the surfaces. And just that's obviously very important with disability equipment that everything is rounded so that people cannot get hurt. Now she's using again a template, and now she's doing the grooves in another piece. Now she's doing all the drillings. Again, she's using a template, so it's very easy. Now she's using the miter saw. You could also get away with a jigsaw if you don't have a miter saw. And now she's doing the gluing of the table supports. There she just needs to make sure she has the right spacing, but then it's just some glue and and some uh, some screwing. Now she's gluing the different side pieces together, and now she's assembling the chair. So obviously it's not everything you saw now, but I think all the different types of work you have seen in this video. So nothing of it is really complicated. Now she is very good with her hands, but like I said, she is not at all trained carpenter. She's a volunteer. Oh, sorry, I'm going to the next picture. So here is Leah doing the assembly, and then here is the finished chair. So during the assembly, it took Leah about 4 hours to produce and assemble, but next time she would be faster. Okay, so now I just want to shortly show you all the different adjustabilities that this chair has. So the first of all is the table support. You see it has like 3 or 4 settings. So it's just for the height of the table. Very simple, just slide in, slide out. Okay, now we're going to the adjustments. So now you see all the wing nuts are inside. That's partially because of the danger to injury of a passing person, but also because of the siblings. Otherwise, they will play with those wing nuts. So he just releases all the different places, and now he can actually slide the the seat forward or backward. So he can now change the seat depth of the chair by just sliding it out or in. Okay, then what he's changing now is the footrest. That's just the holes and again bolts and nuts, wing nuts. He's just changing the positioning of these foot blades, which gives you the seat height. Okay. Next is the backrest. You see, from Elsha's lesson, she also mentioned that the seat height can be changed. So we also have that same system. Plus the the headrest can move up and down, forward, backwards, and also rotate if needed. I have to say the headrest is a new design, so I need to still check it out. There is one remark I have to make here, is you see those plastic brackets, we have 3D printed them. So one would need a 3D printer for this, but there would be other alternatives or just normal foam could be used as well. And now the nice thing is if the backrest doesn't need to be so long, you can actually just take part of the backrest away and now move the headrest down. Okay, next thing is the those side supports. They are the same principle like our other positioning chair, except that I used brackets that are out of the hardware store directly. So it's just the normal brackets that I found, plus some wood, one wood piece that's inside that yoga mat that is used to cushion it. He's using it now to an extreme. I don't think any child would fit in it like that. But anyway, it just shows you it is highly adjustable. That's a bit to the extreme. Um, but yeah, you have lots with those holes. You have many possibilities for the proper adjustments, and you can just swap it around if you want more width. This is a slight concern for me, and I still have to look it out. Remember, this chair has not been tested out yet with patients. The side supports might be too high and might cause that problem that Elsha mentioned, but that would be something that we need to look at. That's just the foam principle. We have three foams. So we have two chip foams and then one high density foams on top, which would make it very easy to cut the ischial shelf because you don't have to cut through the whole thing. You can actually just then cut into one layer you want to be cut. And then the belt has two positions. It can be installed uh, depending on the need of your belt. And then you have the normal side cushions. You see there are three thin ones, so that means by removing or adding, you can change the width and also, or maybe even change the positioning if the child is asymmetrical. Okay, and then the pommel. The pommel is also very simple. It can be removed easily with the bolts, and it can also be cut on those foam. And then the backrest foam is just another 25 millimeter thick high density foam on a yoga mat. The yoga mat is more for ease of use. So because we can make the backrest longer or shorter, it's a bit easier to handle it, but it's not necessary. And remember, this foams would most likely then go into a cover, and the cover could then have Velcro straps attached to it, which you would have also on the chair, so that then the the foams or the cushions can be easily removed or added. Okay. The last thing is the tilt. Um, we do have different tilting um, heights. However, after hearing Elsha's teaching, I might have to revise it and have a little bit less tilt. Um, that is depending on the need, but you do not want to have too much tilt. Cool. I don't know if you see, but it looks like an elephant. Not everyone can see it, but I do see it. Then the wheels, they are only for not for transporting the child in. It's more for ease of use so that the mom doesn't have to carry the chair around but can wheel it around. But when the child is in, I do not recommend the child to be moved around. Um, yeah, remember, this is a positioning device and not a mobility device. So it's not a wheelchair. It should not go outside. It is to position your child at home in a good position. Okay, so that was, in a nutshell, all the functions that we have built in with a very simple design. So, yeah, here is the chair, just a fancy view. I just played around a bit. Um, but yeah, you see, it is literally a very simple design. Okay, so now I'm at that stage where we are ready for testing it out. So some things that I need to look out for. Stability, center of gravity versus tilt of space. So remember the gravity or the gravity, the center of gravity on a child, let's say the child would have about this, yeah, it's difficult now to show, would have about these dimensions in thickness. So most likely the gravity or the center of gravity would go around here. That is good because as long as my center of gravity is within the base of support, which is given by the wheel and by the front height adjustment, um, we are fine. So even if I tilt the chair more backwards, I would still be within the gravity, within the center of gravity. But that's definitely something to look at and obviously as well to test. We do not want the child to fall backwards. In general, I need to look out for the stability. We have added, oh, sorry, I just want to go back here. Uh, we have added some, yeah, I don't know how I can go back to the turning. We have added some supports between the two sides to make it a bit more stable. The next thing I need to look out for is the headrest. Is my headrest high enough? Does it have the right shape? I might want to change the shape so that the eyes are free to observe the surroundings, but still offering the support. That's also something I'm going to consult Elsha for her input. Then the size in general, even the design of the headrest. This was obviously now a test with a 3D printer. Does this even work in reality, or was it just a fancy idea I had? What cushioning will I have on the headrest? Then one option we could actually do with this chair, quite simple, would be to change the reclining, or can't remember how Elshot called it in correct terms, but meaning so that you will keep, instead of having a 90-degree angle, that you could actually open your angle slightly. So we could easily do that with this design by adding a groove and having then the support resting in that groove. But I don't know if that would be a desirable outcome. Again, I want to consult some specialists for that. Um, Then the other thing I mentioned was, are maybe those sides too high so that actually the sides get in the way of the child and the child doesn't have the space she needs? Are the proportions correctly? I'm actually thinking now, looking at the chair, it might be too narrow and too high. That's something as well. We can only find out once we start working with the children. Are our proportions correct, or do we have to adjust it? Um, and then the tilt in space range. I have here different tilt in spaces. I think it starts with 5 degrees, but I might, after consultation with Elsha, come to the conclusion, no, I actually need to have less tilt of space as a starting position. Again, that's something to be tried out. Okay, so just for you to see a bit this project, also about the way forward, what still needs to get in place. There's obviously always a lot of testing needed, but I'm in general just very excited that with a very simple system, I think we have found a way to make a highly adaptable chair that can serve many children. It's easy to produce with these templates. You would probably be able to do it in your setting. I might have to send you the templates, but it would be a doable project. So that's this. Okay. And then just want to also give credits to Vian. Vian is my long-term staff member. He's in a wheelchair band himself. He has over the years grown, and he's now the main designer together with me. We are designing the products together usually. He's drawing all the things, and despite being wheelchair bound and not being able to do ordinary carpentry work, through his technical skill set and through the computer, he's now actually my most important man in the workshop. And that also just gives me hope. You know, I'm not a great fan of technology always, or I see the limitation and the danger. But for people with disability, technology can obviously be a game changer. And I'm excited to see that there might be more opportunities for them in the years to come. Yeah, so then here is the CNC machine. I just wanted to show you what we obviously have the luxury of. We can produce all the pieces of this chair with the CNC machine, even save material by keeping it very narrow together. Just want to show you. So basically, what a CNC machine does is the same what that handwriter does. It cuts the wood, except that here the handwriter is now supported and guided by different motors that move that writer around. So that's for if you would, let's say your organization would want to take production to a higher level, this would definitely be something to look at. We have built this CNC machine ourselves, so it can be done quite cheaply as well. And then the other thing I want to mention is the 3D printing. I still have to test out, is this even, is this head support helpful? Is it the right design? But I just want to show you the 3D printer can also be a game changer in the development and in the production of equipment. And they get very cheap. I just want to show you, this is, for example, a knob that we made, 3D printed knob. And now you see, this is our 3D printer. So basically it just layers the plastic together. And it can do any shape that you're designing on the computer. So for us as developers, as visionaries, this is obviously a dream machine to have. And it costs about 5,000 Rand. So it's not, it's not cheap, but it's not, 5,000 Rand, that would be about $250. So you're looking at that. I just want to mention while speaking about 3D printer, there is an organization in Canada. I will remember the name later, maybe in the question and answer session. They basically publish designs for adaptive toys or switch toys and other stuff that can be helpful for communication um, of children with disability, which a lot of it is 3D printed. So there is a whole website that actually offers free plans for a lot of adaptive and the uh, ADL um, pieces. I just forgot now the name. What does ADL stand for? Anyway, okay, just to recap, there is really not a lot you would need to build this elephant chair. Um, there's a jigsaw, very cheap, a hand reactor. They are also not so expensive. This one was about 1,000 rand, so that's about $50. Uh, Sanding machine, probably 30, $40. Hand drill, $25, $30, $40. Ruler, square measuring tape, sandpaper, drill bits, knife, and nice to have table saw or a miter saw, but again, this is not necessary. You can get away very easily with a jigsaw. Okay, so I want to finish my session with just sharing with you about my vision. My vision is really that we have now, over the last 20 years, 28 years even, I've gained a lot of experience. Um, and I would like to offer this experience now to other places, to other organizations. My vision is that affordable equipment um, is accessible all over the world. And so I would like to share the experience how to build low cost equipment. I would like to share plans and designs with a partnership agreement, obviously. I would even offer our place to host therapists and carpenters to come to Jeffreys Bay to learn from us, to work alongside us as part of an internship or a training, a few training weeks or so, to learn the production of disability equipment and maybe even see some other approaches that we have, which we feel works well to work with the children and the moms. And I also want to just testify, we have a partner organization in India, Anugrah project in the north of India. And we actually, I went there in 2011 or 10, I can't remember even. And just within 2 weeks, I was teaching them how to make standing frame, how to make a positioning chair, another type of positioning chair. And after those 2 weeks, they kept doing it and they actually produce equipment um, on a weekly basis. And they came back to South Africa for another 2 weeks or 3 weeks of upgrade training, and they learned some other equipment. And again, they took back the knowledge and are now producing a lot of the Timion equipment that we produce here. So it is really doable. If you have motivated people, people with good hands, that yeah, that maybe not clumsy, but are hands-on, you will be able to produce a lot. And I would love to partner with you and to teach you, advise you, but also to learn from you because, you know, I have learned, I've got a lot of experience now, but um, you have a lot of experience and it's the sharing of this experience that makes us stronger. So please contact me if you are interested. We are very busy, but um, this is a passion for me, and my vision is that all children all over the world should not should be able to receive appropriate equipment, um, regardless of their financial means or their social stand. I'm looking forward. I'm at the moment stuck in South Africa because I actually have a visa problem. I'm Swiss originally, and at the moment I'm not able to travel. However, I've already planned a trip to Tanzania, where I want to teach some people there how to make low-cost equipment. I want to visit India again and help them further their knowledge. So I'm very excited about this journey ahead for us and hopefully together with some of you. Okay, thank you so much. It was a great privilege.